Logan, thank you so much for being here today. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Thank you guys so much for having me. Very excited about today.
Yeah, it's our pleasure. The first thing I wanted to ask you about, that we wanted to ask you about, is when you hear Eric Rosa talk about how adaptive divisions are going to be part of the Open, what does that mean to you?
Oh man, I mean, didn't realize that that's how the announcement was going to come out. But first of all, before I even begin to answer the question, I have to say, really to both of you, but Sean, I've got to be honest, I'm going to direct this directly towards Tommy. Thank you. Thank you. You asked the question, man. You brought it up in that podcast, in that incredible opportunity to ask the question that you know this community, Tommy, one that you've championed for so long, myself and Steph at Waza with you. So literally from the bottom of my heart, I remember listening to that, not knowing what was about to be said, and just hearing you propose that question. And I just thought to myself, gosh, that guy is champion for our cause and effort. So thank you. Hearing that, oh my gosh, it was so exciting, right? It's so exciting to hear from Eric because, Adaptive Training Academy and Wheelwad in conjunction have been talking with CrossFit headquarters for a few months about this exact topic. And we're all so thrilled. We're all so thrilled from the farthest reaches of this community, from individuals who, for whatever reason, maybe don't get the opportunity or the credit that they should for this finally happening in CrossFit. And I'd like to give a moment to just express some appreciation and recognition for those individuals and organizations that were paramount to this, for this being where we are now. And that's organizations like Crossroads, Adaptive Athletic Alliance, the original nonprofit organization in this space, founded and ran by David Chef Wallace and Sarah Olson out of CrossFit Rubicon. That's where the original Working Wounded Games came about all the way back in, I think they started in 2012. That was and then CrossFit Media was there to capture that and tell those stories. And I think that was the first opportunity CrossFit headquarters saw that, oh my gosh, there's this thing happening in this community of adaptive individuals. So I want to give praise and credit where it's due. Like those were the pioneers, those were the first to make it happen. And personally, I want to give personal praise to somebody who is the reason I started CrossFit, and that's Crystal Cantu. She's an above elbow amputee, saw her story as I was just getting interested in CrossFit, and she fired me up. She's the reason that I went in so hardcore when I did in 2015 was because of Crystal Cantu. So there are endless individuals and leaders and pioneers in this space of adaptive CrossFit that have been around for decades. And I just want to thank them. I just want to express my gratitude, appreciation for the path that they've paved, and then for the work that we were able to come in and leverage on top of everything that they built. So it's just important for me to state, we're all so excited. That's the most common word amongst us all. Everyone is incredibly excited, but there's a lot of work to be done. And we're very honored to get to be the stewards of that work on behalf of CrossFit in anything that CrossFit does, especially when it comes to this competitive platform. It needs to be excellent. And it needs to be thought out. The kinks need to be thought out. And so I additionally was just nodding my head with great appreciation with the foresight from Eric to say that, we may not get it perfect, but we're going to do it. And I really appreciated him saying that. Now, maybe I'll regret saying this later, but I'm going to challenge him and say that we've been doing it long enough. I think it's going to be awesome. I think it's going to go on without a hitch. And we're going to crush it. And so I'm happy to talk more about specifics and things of that nature, but man, we're just so thrilled. We're so thrilled to hear from Eric, from the leader himself, to say, yes, it's something we're excited about. It represents the DEI with what they're doing, diversity, equity, and inclusion that's happening on the competitive platform. And he also recognizes that it takes resources and support to bring that in, and that he's approved the budget, as he says, for that. And so that there are individuals behind the scenes working with Alec and myself and Chris Stoutenberg, as we were discussing just earlier last week about like actual scoring stuff and really getting into the nitty gritty and details of how it's all going to be executed. But yeah, so freaking excited.
Yeah. And let's get into the details. That was my next question is like, you know, in wanting to, you know, provide that excellence as far as, you know, the adaptive communities foray into the open, at least from formal CrossFit Games competition. And what does that look like? What are a few of the things that, and we spoke to Jed Snelson earlier today, and he had a couple things that, you know, that stood out to us that we wouldn't have thought of, but what are some real kind of points of focuses, or like, these are the things we have to nail down, the fundamentals of adaptive competition from, you know, a structural standpoint, from an, you know, all different levels to make sure it fits.
Yeah, great question. Fantastic question. So to answer that, I'll first say, you know, this has been done. We've been doing this via the WheelWOD platform for quite some time. How that's all happened in the past via the WheelWOD platform, which also, again, for context for people listening and trying to understand what is this, who is ATA, who is WheelWOD, what do they do? I like to give a little bit of explanation there because it can be a bit confusing in understanding who does what. Adaptive Training Academy is sort of this overarching umbrella organization that instills themselves in education. So we deliver the certification for CrossFit and any other trainers to work with people with disabilities. WheelWOD is a division within Adaptive Training Academy that offers programming and competition consulting. So WheelWOD is the platform. A lot of individuals think WheelWOD is for wheelchair athletes to do workouts. That's how it started. But now it is the overarching platform for adaptive athletes and functional fitness to compete. So when this opportunity came about and they reached out, like, yes, we have a lot to work on to take what we do on our own and make it a part of the CrossFit infrastructure. And I think what is most important, because let's face it, CrossFit is a huge brand, much bigger than the reach and impact we're having as a WheelWOD ATA entity. So when its official announcement comes out like this, I mean, we immediately, when you guys released that and the article came out from Morning Chalk Up, I mean, we're getting messages from International Paralympic Committee. Like, there's interest. There are eyes on CrossFit now for this exact reason. And there has been for a while, but a whole new level of legitimacy just came by this, you know, CrossFit announcement. So what is most important and paramount that we get right in the beginning is the divisions, right? It's not just one adaptive division. We're proposing 8. I'm pretty optimistic that we'll get all 8 divisions, but that's really important so that we can narrow down the parameters and expectations of ability levels and conditions for each division. And then within the divisions, the most important part that we move forward with and professionalizing with CrossFit is our classification standard. If you're familiar, if any listeners have ever been a part of the Paralympic or that pursuit, they know that the classification process becomes this just incredibly complex, not really understanding way of organizing and classifying individuals' impairment level and disability group. Now with us, we're talking about the sport of the unknown, right? It's fitness. It could be any and everything.
Yeah.
Classification from the Paralympic perspective happens relative to specific sport, and certain impairments don't classify for even specific sports. So we are taking the parts that we really love from the Paralympic model and classification, and then having to tweak it just a little bit, not reinventing the wheel here, but tweaking it just a little bit so that it's relevant to the holistic sport of fitness, rather than, let's just say, classification for swimming or classification for track and field. So these are the aspects where, as we look at it from an administration, operational back end, we have got to figure out and solidify and be very public with the expectation of the type of athletes that fit into these divisions, and then how you go about classifying yourself with medical approval, paperwork, and then also in competition. So us approving you through, in COVID world, a virtual event as we watch your video and deem, yes, they're limited by this and this affects them and so on and so forth. That's really important, because I believe, just like with Eric Rose's aspirations for 2021 Open to have 500,000 participants, I believe that my personal goal for the adaptive division in that open is to have over 1,000. And I think that is very realistic. I think that is a very obtainable number, but I set that bar low intentionally. I think we'll see a massive turnout, well over that. And frankly, if we do, we've got a lot of work cut out for us, because the degrees of which impairments are different are endless. And then how they will fit into the appropriate class will be a little bit of that more meticulous hard work going on behind the scenes. Not really fun to talk about, but like it's really important for, I think, listeners and potential participants to understand how important that part of it is.
Yeah. There's obviously going to be a learning curve here for CrossFit. You and a lot of people have been putting on these competitions for adaptive athletes. What are some of the lessons that you've learned over that time now that you will bring to the table for CrossFit to make sure that maybe that learning curve isn't as steep as it could be?
Yeah, great question. Oftentimes we're super critical of the way that we program for different individuals. And then sometimes without clarity and context to what the classification or the category is intended, we question our programming because someone can't complete the movement or task. I think the biggest lesson to learn and lens to look at this through is, are we accommodating impairments or are we accommodating people's fitness level? So, the legitimacy of the CrossFit platform and the way in which why this open in the games exists to deem the fittest on earth in their respective category. There's a part there where it comes, you have to get away. And I'm glad, I'm most excited about this as an athlete. I'm most excited about this. You have to get away from the hand clapping, good job, you're crushing it, awesome job. And it has to be a bit more of like, well, if you can't do it, you can't do it. You're going to have to go get fitter. You're going to need to lose some weight. You're going to need to gain some strength. Some things are going to have to happen. And this is a little bit of a blunt approach to it, but I'm emotional, I'm sensitive, I love supporting people, but I also think there's a lot of value in just being like, this is black and white. Here it is. If you can't do this, that's not, and I know we're just saying this in kind of generalizations, but for an example, if you can't do this one thing, why are we just immediately going to jump to the fact that, oh, it's because of your disability and maybe not because of your fitness? We've been doing this for so long. We've seen some remarkable feats of fitness from individuals that can kind of reshape what that standard or expectation should be for that classification. Yeah. For instance, some of our spinal cord injury individuals are able to do things like med ball sit-ups that are deemed impossible anatomically with the control and muscle function that they have, but through movement pattern and working on those fine motor skills and just practicing skill, they're able to do it. So someone who's never done CrossFit training comes in and does the adaptive open, they might really struggle. They might really be like, this is ridiculous. I'm a T12 and there's no way T12s can do this. Well, we can say, well, here's Kevin Ogard doing it. Here's this other guy doing it. Listen, you've got to train CrossFit in order to compete CrossFit. And I think that's a really exciting subtlety that is going to start to be instilled with adaptive CrossFit. Not pointing fingers, not saying names, nothing. I literally don't have a specific example, but I just know this has been said often. Paralympians in their specific sport are phenomenal. Gold medalists, 3-4 years running. And view CrossFit as, I'm not going to do that mess. These guys, they're all just like kind of average at a little bit of everything. They're not really great at anything. And when that perception comes into this space and maybe participates in a completely open invitational like the Open, I think there's going to be some humbling experiences where they're going to go, oh my God, I didn't realize that, a T12 could do all of that volume or could lift that much weight. And so that really gets me excited because I think it is going to drop a lot of the preconceived notions and stigma around it. And you're just going to have to do the work and show up and put it in. And I think it's going to be humbling for many. And selfishly, I believe that is going to turn into more adaptive athletes rolling or walking into affiliates and saying, I want to do CrossFit, which has always been the goal, right?
Yeah. And it's that shift from, to steal a kind of a quote from Jed, is that move from patronizing to professionalism. And, not to draw parallels, that everything you said, like subject removed, is what was happening, was what people were saying about the open when it was started in 2011, right? It's not, it's a general fitness thing. It's like, once you set these standards and you require people to adhere to them, growth happens. And you might get the people on the outside that kind of, snicker and like, kind of roll their eyes. But then through that growth, suddenly it becomes this movement and these feats that otherwise people can't poo-poo anymore. And then all of a sudden you've got this full-fledged sport on your hands that's just, soaring.
100%. I think that's what's most exciting about all this. To Jed's point, I've been, I don't even mean to talk about me, but to talk about someone like Jed, like the level of professionalism that he has brought to training is the same level in my mind. And I've been fortunate to be exposed to a lot of elite level games athletes, but it's a lot of the same level of severity and the same level of dedication and time consumption for him. 100%. I was amazed at when I was with him at Wadapalooza, he was explaining to me his full-time commitment to training. I was like, this is remarkable. This is the way it should be for adaptive athletes who are at the top in this sport. They should have that opportunity. And I think, yes, CrossFit, if they realize it or not, that's just something that comes along with this platform, is another level of professionalism and legitimacy. And I'm really excited about that, from my own background as well. I think, we have the opportunity to influence social media because, it's profound, right? You're missing an arm, you're in a wheelchair, you're lifting a barbell over your head. You stop scrolling when you see that stuff sometimes. You're like, wait a minute, what is that? So it has an initial marketing attraction, right?
Yeah.
These individuals, if they're able to recognize that themselves as an athlete can be a brand similar to elite CrossFit athletes, and how you can make a living and a career out of marketing yourself and endorsement deals and whatnot, I think that becomes a lot more obtainable. I think the CrossFit ecosystem, the CrossFit economy is robust. And I think that brands and organizations have been really good in the past about working with adaptive individuals, giving them the spotlight and opportunity to shine. But I think now we'll even find, maybe not in the first year, but 2, 3, 5 years from now, we'll find more legitimate adaptive athletes who can dedicate or seek support, endorsement, sponsorship from brands and say, I'm bringing you this many eyes, look at the exposure, and really start to create professional adaptive athletes, adaptive CrossFit athletes. And that is exciting for me too, because I think that's a bigger picture part of the ecosystem as well. Because I'm lost this arm at 13. I full-heartedly believe that I don't think I would have been a CrossFit athlete, but I would have been a professional wakeboarder. I believe I would have maybe played some professional lacrosse. I would have been a professional athlete. At least I would have done everything in my power to strive to be one. So I think that CrossFit is the first organization, the first sport, the first brand that can set the tone for saying, if we do this well and we do this right, we're creating literally employment opportunities, professional athletic opportunities for people with disabilities. Paralympics does a great job of that, but it's once every 4 years. Now we're talking about an event every single year that can have a lot of traction. And again, I just believe that people can actually have a career as an athlete in this space now moving forward.
Judging has always been a little bit of an issue in the regular open.
Yeah.
How do you avoid those problems in judging now that we're adding all these adaptive divisions so that people are ready to properly judge an adaptive athlete?
That is a phenomenal question. I love that forethought, Sean, because you're absolutely right. I mean, can you imagine, all the standards or points of performance that we take from the able-bodied perspective and then instill into the adaptive. And then the judge is probably normally just a member who just finished the open and they've got WOD brain. And now they're like, oh, you want me to judge for you and you're doing U-turns instead of box jumps? And, it's chaos, very confusing. Mm-hmm. We're very aware of that. And so as we develop our scorecards and as we develop our programming, we're very cognizant of that to try to make it as simple as possible. Additionally, the fact that Adaptive Training Academy, back when we did our last podcast, talking all about our online course and how crazy it was developing the learning management system and blah, 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 all that not fun stuff to talk about. But that was really important for us. Like, we have that knowledge now. We have the ability to quickly build out a very interactive online course platform thing you can go through. So what we expect to do is to develop a adaptive judges course, if you will. It won't be, you won't have to pay for it. It'll be free, but it'll allow affiliates that have adaptive athletes in them to just hop on and take this judging course real quick. I think we've seen that before, right? With the Open and with workouts, to really, you have a certified judge. That's that next level of professionalism with us, because in this world of the pandemic, right, that there's going to be next stages of competition. I don't know about under the CrossFit umbrella, but on behalf of WheelWOD, what we're doing, we have our WheelWOD Open happening next week. And then there will be like an online stage 1 of our WheelWOD games. I guess not to confuse the listener even more, but maybe let me explain a little bit of that, because CrossFit is bringing in this division. Awesome. But that does not mean that WheelWOD, the adaptive competitive platform, goes away. It is the consultant. It is Chris Stoutenberg, founder of WheelWOD, a part of ATA staff. Him, myself, Alex Zerkenbach, Kevin Ogar, along with many others outside of our organization, are helping CrossFit develop this and implement it. But WheelWOD is really that go-to platform for the competition, execution, and programming. It's really important to us that that doesn't get lost as CrossFit brings this on, right? Now, as Eric alluded to, we hope that there's more opportunities to compete. We hope that there's more than just the top 5% get to move on to this next thing and go on. But also within the subset of adaptive community, we hope that scaled athletes, individuals that might have a little bit more severe levels of disability and impairment, can move their body, be included, participate, and still compete against other scaled athletes relevant to their impairment category. So WheelWOD is absolutely in every way going to continue to exist in order to provide that, and really maybe be that stepping stone towards the CrossFit Open, towards the CrossFit Games. Yeah. Really focused on mass inclusion there, and that first step into that direction. And that's really important to us. And so I guess I don't even know what question you asked or where I was going with that, but I wanted to clarify that there is still this sort of other season that is within this CrossFit ecosystem for adaptive athletes.
Sure. And so you touched on a little bit with Sean's original question about, judging and standards and stuff like that with the ATA stuff. We're fortunate to talk to you. Shoot, feels like eons ago because of everything that's happened in the world. But what are kind of the latest things that is really driving the ATA right now, and what you guys are doing within the space?
Yeah, thanks for asking. Man, we're just, wow. We're delivering the online course. We're delivering it in a cohort model, which is really cool, selfishly, because it lets us feel and connect with the learners every week virtually. So when we implemented the cohort model, everything changed with registration, with discussion board participation, providing examples or best practices they were experiencing in their own gyms, because we were interacting with them every week. So that was really good. But additionally, through all of this development, through interest, a ton of interest, everybody's sitting at home participating in our virtual workouts that we do every week and every weekend. And they're free, and more adaptive athletes are coming out and saying, what is this? What is the Open? So we're realizing, I think the biggest miss that we've done as the Academy is that we educate the individuals, but we don't then offer continued training for adaptive athletes. What makes this most evident and most apparent that this needs to be the way moving forward is CrossFit's, incorporation of the adaptive division. We have every day a lot of DMs from individuals far outside of CrossFit, never exposed to it, living with disabilities, some impairments, and asking, how do I get started? Where do I get involved? And yes, we're so fortunate that we have a massive reference list of adaptive and inclusive certified trainers and of affiliates all over the world. We can direct them there. That's awesome. But oftentimes, the world is massive and people are spread far and thin, and you can't go to all those places. And even more so, it's the pandemic, right? So how many of us are actually going into places? So the biggest need that we're working on now is delivering foundational training. So we do this virtually. I've been leading this for the National VA for veterans, as well as a few other national nonprofits that serve disabled communities around the country. It's been so cool. Everything from a 16-year-old kid, bilateral amputee, to a 78-year-old man who's a single leg above knee amputee. We got him in the same class going over foundational functional movements for people with disabilities. And I've been doing it for 12 weeks for one nonprofit, and it was supposed to expire. And as it was supposed to expire, I was telling the class, I was with them, I was like, hey, it's our last session today. They all like boycotted and made the nonprofit get the funding to continue the program into all of 2021. So it's humbling to me, man. Like they're like, the best hour of our week is when Logan teaches us some fitness class for an hour. So that gets me so excited. And we've realized as an academy, we do all this work to give this knowledge out to the world. We need to do a better job at serving the curious minds that are near us, the individuals that we're trying to make the impact with, the people with the disabilities. So yes, we're doing that in a way of virtual training. But I guess most exciting news to announce, make it official on here, is Adaptive Training Academy is converting to a nonprofit so that we can work more synonymous. We can just be more connected and synchronized with the national VA and with these nonprofits that continue to desire to partner with us. And we've been finding strategic ways to do so. As we transition to a nonprofit, then our mission to bring adaptive athletes into affiliates can be 10x. And we can really affect change without having to worry about the bottom line and get funds into the affiliate owners' hands, into the adaptive athletes' pockets, so that they can afford to train and afford to pursue the health and wellness benefits we all get from CrossFit.
That's fantastic.
I've asked you this before, and I loved your answer. And there's some people who haven't heard this, but when you think about the adaptive training course, there might be some coaches out there like, well, don't need to take that. That's not worth my while because I don't have to deal with adaptive athletes. I don't have anything like that in my gym. Why is that the wrong way to look at it?
Yeah, that's totally the wrong way to look at it, because if you think about the context of our courses only being able to help people with disabilities, you've completely missed the mark of what our education entails. What our course does to you is it makes you a more thoughtful trainer, period. So whether you are working with a population of individuals that are just a little bit deconditioned, maybe two people in your class are a little bit more deconditioned than most, a little bit overweight, and you have an elite athlete in your class and you have a few people in between. What our course does is, yes, it teaches you principles on how to work with people with disabilities, but it makes you the most thoughtful and articulate trainer when it comes to maintaining stimulus, maintaining safety, effectiveness, and inclusiveness in your group training environments. And I think as coaches, whether you're a level 1, level 2, level 3, or level 4, once you've mastered the mechanics of movement and of actual coach cueing, it really becomes a balance of that. How am I running the most safe, effective, and inclusive best hour of these people's day? With our course, we hit on that so well, so thoroughly, everything from the language you use and the communication tactics you use to the actual way that you, what I like to call, filter out what to do for them throughout the black box of, okay, here's what it was, here's what's going on with them, here's what it can be, here are the options that it can be. So yeah, that's totally the wrong impression to think, well, I'll probably never see someone with a disability come into my gym. To answer that directly is, I bet you will. I bet you will. And not only would I have bet that before, but even now with this announcement, if you're a CrossFit affiliate, I am very confident in the next 5 years, there is going to be an adaptive program within your facility. That program can exist in conjunction with your CrossFit classes, or it can be a separate program that you market and allow to create competitive programming for adaptive individuals who want to get into CrossFit. Like, I think there's so much more opportunity and possibility now because of CrossFit's endorsement of this. And then additionally, I think with everything that we're doing with the online course and the access to that course, I think more people are aware that there's a need for this. And I think that's on us. It's on us to educate with statistics and with the real value from taking our course is getting put into our network so that you can then touch with the local VA and get connected with a veteran program in your facility. So I think that's really where it starts. And I don't mean to like be blunt about it, but if people have that sort of approach, like, yeah, it's for adaptive individuals, I'm not really going to work with those. I mean, it's the total wrong approach as to why this course exists. The intention behind this is making you a more thoughtful trainer.
Yeah. And it's funny because you said that last time. You mentioned some of that last time. It's like, and it kind of opened up our eyes a little bit. And especially like Sean has had a recent injury to work around too. It's like that thoughtfulness doesn't always need to pertain to like, you know, what's considered a permanent disability, but if someone that's injured or is you know, has a devastating injury that they're working back from and they're impaired for, you know, an extended period of time as they work back, like all of those principles are still very much in play. And even if you're someone that trains at home, and you know, that's great stuff to think of for your own personal fitness journey as well.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I think that's exactly what ends up happening. People take the course. Yes, they get to work with adaptive athletes and still some great programming for them. But then when they're having a nagging shoulder injury or they've got something going on with their hip, and their knees feeling funky, regardless if there's like some real breakthrough knowledge that you might have gained from our course for that specific example, what's happening is the psychology of, well, I got a bummed shoulder. Like, does that mean I can't just sit around all day? I know adaptive athletes work out with one arm all the time. Like, so even if you don't, if it's not just in order to gain the educational knowledge, well, I have a bum shoulder, let me apply this principle. Even if it's just for the psychology of, well, I should go train if other adaptive athletes train with one arm all the time. I mean, I think that, you know, I think that sometimes when I might have knee pain or like hips hurting, I'm like, well, I can work on other things that allow me to stay positive in my own mind. Because I know for my psychology, I need to go to the gym. I need to work out every day. Mm-hmm. So that's a way to remind yourself that others are doing it. You can do it. You can do it safely and not, you know, prolong that injury.
What have you and the people in your organization been doing to grow the adaptive athlete community and get more potential adaptive athletes into not just CrossFit affiliates, but just gyms in general?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's exactly kind of why we created this foundational training series. It's to do exactly that. And the impact we're having with it is way outside of CrossFit affiliates for sure. Like I was mentioning earlier, it's typically individuals who are just more so deconditioned than have a limitation due to an impairment. Now, for whatever reason, whether it's PTSS, they're a veteran, they're a part of this nonprofit, they're funded, they're one of their members to get supported. Everybody's story and predicament is unique. But what I know is I see the full range. I see the full range in our versatile training. And that has had the biggest uptick to individuals joining our Saturday free wheel wad workouts, and then getting interested in specific adaptive CrossFit programming for them, one-on-one programming, getting them into that ecosystem, and then getting them just more comfortable with seeing a workout and understanding how to create their own adaptations. Because that's the empowerment we're trying to create. If you're an adaptive athlete and you're coming to ATA, you're not a trainer or a coach, we want you to gain the knowledge, insight for how to move safely, effectively, and efficiently for yourself. Understand the points of performance we're trying to hold you to the standard of, and then how to be able to see any workout out there, make the appropriate calls on adaptations to get the right, safe, effective stimulus for yourself. Or have no workout exist. You live your life in a wheelchair. This is the way your life is. Give you the knowledge to create an effective program for yourself. And now we do that without going down the rabbit holes of saying, oh, you need to follow the CrossFit methodology, or, oh, you need to follow strength and conditioning methodology. And we do that with an understanding of functional fitness and a pursuit of general physical preparedness. So we have our recommendations and referral, but if you want to go be an ultra marathon runner or roller in a wheelchair, by all means, go do it. Just develop your program in a way that is most beneficial for that, goal-oriented, the needs of the athlete, the goals of the athlete, and then the needs and goals. And that's kind of like the path we put athletes on.
This, just like hearing you talk about all this stuff and with all the recent announcements, it kind of brings me back to like 2011 time when the first announcement about ESPN and the Open. There was a lot of these things moving around. You kind of felt like this was an explosion point for the sport. And in particular, right now, it feels like this is an explosion point for adaptive training in general. So maybe describe a little bit of what that feeling is for you internally. And then I'm curious, like when you I like to do a lot of visualization, like when you visualize it 5 years from now, 10 years from now, what are some things that are kind of on your board, in your mind, as far as what's possible and what you hope to see later on down the line?
Oh man, those are such great questions. I normally don't get, I don't know how to answer the first one. Like in terms of my personal emotions, like gosh, I guess maybe the more aggressive side of me wants to be like, oh, I freaking told you so. Like I told you this would happen. Like I knew this would happen. Like, and again, like since 2014, beginning of 2015, this has been my mission. The first affiliate I walked into, first gym, I mean, Crystal Cantu fired me up, got me so inspired to be like, oh my God, I can go do this stuff. And I go into that gym and I'm like, all right, there's stuff I kind of know how to do because I've seen this girl do it. And there's a lot of stuff I'm going to try to figure out, but I'm here to do it. Like, you don't need to know. I'm just let me be here and do it. And I told him, I said, he said, okay, cool, dude. What's your goal? Like, what are you trying to do here? You know, you're trying to gain weight, back squat a certain number of weights. I'm like, no. My goal is to be the face of this adaptive movement within CrossFit and make it have just as much legitimacy as CrossFit Games athletes have, or people with disabilities. I told him that on day one, and this is still like the guy who owns the gym right down the road, and he'll often remind me, and I'll often pinch myself too and think, dude, you know, it's been like 5 years. That's it. It's been 5 years. And look at where you are. Look at what is happening today from where you started January 2015. Like, whoa, that if I put the context into that, once I explain that and explain what is happening right now and try to explain to you my emotions behind it, surreal. I can't believe it's happening. And I freaking told you so. Like, I knew this was going to happen because I was going to die trying, man. And I mean, I've met, and like, I wouldn't burn a bridge. I would never speak negatively. I mean, that's just a personal ethos of mine. Like, never speak negative of people, never speak negative of organizations. Something's not happening the way you want it to be happening. There's more to it than that. Right. And I think, people get very passionate. This is passion, right? The adaptive community, they're passionate individuals. And it's easy for your narrative to then get twisted where you're trying to say politely, hey, CrossFit, we'd love to be a part of this. That can oftentimes come across as you're being a little malicious. You're trying to talking them down a little bit. So I made sure to be as politically correct in my growth as an athlete and as a coach, and respect CrossFit. Always have, always will. But I knew that we wouldn't get anywhere once we started complaining. And so I'm so glad that I, along with so many others in this space, have stayed persistent, have stayed positive, and even through, the chaos of the community as a whole with Floyd-19 crap. It's just, it's so cool to see the community as a whole come full circle, and then the growth of the subset community of adaptive individuals within it blossom. So like, oh, it feels surreal. And then additionally, like, I think, gosh, 5 years, 10 years from now, I think it's a very serious conversation about it being in the Paralympics. Mm-hmm. I think it's a very serious conversation about this reducing, I'm like big picture stuff, man. I'm talking on Capitol Hill. I'm talking changing the way in which policies are written for prosthetic support, for wheelchair services, like the affordability of these assistive devices, these ambulatory devices, not only for quality of living in your daily IADLs, individual daily living, but like for fitness. If you're above knee amputee, you should be able to have a running leg and your walking leg. And like, is this by at least those two? I mean, I could say you should also be able to have a deadlift leg and like OCR leg, and like, a bunch of other cool stuff, but like at least those two, right? And so that is like, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but like big picture, Adaptive Training Academy, that's why we initially existed. But right now we have to start with fitness. We have to start with fitness. Like the gap is we have to train the people who already offer fitness. We got to train the affiliate owners, the coaches within CrossFit, but we also have to train therapists, medical professionals, all outside of CrossFit. And then we have to empower the people living with a disability to realize the barrier of entry isn't that massive, to realize they can move their bodies well, safely. They can do it in their home. And then they can also go to a place. And that place they go to is accessible, it's inclusive, they have the knowledge, and you can safely move your body there too. And then from there, we're creating confidence, we're creating empowerment, we're creating more independence, more quality of life, more independence, same thing. But from there, now we need to create better access for the individuals because, and I'm not talking about access like being able to get into a movie theater or get into the gym, but I'm talking about access of those specific medical services, the prosthetic, the orthotics, the different devices they may need. So that is why, that's big picture. That's what the ATA pivoting to being a nonprofit, being this organization that can really reach and create these efforts and grow these funds to go have a bigger impact and work with senators and congressmen. I mean, we've already got individuals reaching out to us interested on this behalf. So that's the big picture, Tommy. And I don't know if that's like far left field compared to what you thought I was going to say, because also alongside that, in context of what we're talking about, bigger picture is the fittest individual in their respective adaptive category gets the same opportunity spotlight as the fittest elite male and female individual. That is important to me. Please know, any adaptive listeners or individuals, like it is very important to me to fight for that level of professionalism for adaptive athletes. I have no idea, but I don't think we'll be there in the first year or even the first few years. But I think if we don't speak too soon and speak with our emotions and speak, well, I didn't want to be over here, we're barely getting seen. No. Be appreciative, have gratitude that you're there. Be so thankful. Represent yourself because you're representing the whole community with class. So have extreme class and sportsmanlike conduct, and be an athlete. Be an athlete and be grateful to be there. And I think 5 years, 10 years from now, these athletes will be battling for 6-figure payouts for first place, for real life-changing money, stuff that really gives them a career and platform in this space, as well as just the professionalism as an athlete.
Love it.
Yeah. When this growth happens, I should say, there are going to be a lot more affiliates out there that are having adaptive athletes show up at their doors, other than taking the online adaptive training course. What can these affiliates do to make sure that they are as accessible and as welcoming as they possibly can for those athletes when they do show up?
Yeah, great question. They can, take our course, obviously, right? That's the first thing you can do. But other than that, it's being cognizant of the typical ADA compliances, like pure accessibility requirements that we all should follow in any brick and mortar place. So making sure that you literally are just accessible, like that you have a ramp, that at your front door, it's not like one of those like industrial doors, it's like 40 pounds to get it to open for you to get into, right? Like there's a really valuable checklist that you can check out between, and I know that none of that's fun. None of that stuff is fun to do. That's just literally the facility prep. For coaches, I think they can be involved, check out what we're putting out on Instagram, look at the stuff the tips and tricks we try to provide at Adaptive Training, and also participate. Join in on a Saturday hero workout. I mean, right now they're not hero workouts, they're more open prep workouts, but our wheel wad Saturday workouts, they're open to anybody. It's not at all meant to be for just adaptive individuals. And if you show up with all your arms and legs, we're not like, who are you? What are you doing here? We're like, please come, because that's what we tell our course learners and our course graduates. We're like, maybe you're getting to practice this stuff, all this knowledge you just learned, or maybe you don't have the opportunity to practice it right now because gyms are closed. Well, in order to, keep it fresh, join us every Saturday. We're not going to challenge you. We're not going to quiz you, but you can just observe. You can see how we're going to run a virtual adaptive class and how all these different levels, because every division of adaptive category is represented on these Saturday workouts. You see everyone in there. So I would encourage you, the best place to learn, the best place to be prepared is to just start. So I think getting involved with us on Saturday workouts, or give yourself a simulated impairment workout, try a workout written for a seated athlete, see how that feels. I think it's humbling and also enlightening to see what it's like to train those athletes, and you get a much better understanding how to program for them.
All right.
Right on.
Yeah, that's I'm fired up about this. And it's really cool that, with all the conversations that we've had on diversity, that we often forget that should include adaptive athletes. And now that's happening. I think everybody in the CrossFit community should be excited about that.
Well, and not to geek out on numbers, but I don't know if I've mentioned this on the last podcast, but statistically speaking, this population, and I'm not so familiar with international, but in the United States, there's 61 million people living with a permanent disability, permanent impairment, right? That's legit 1 in 4 people. This is a population that I think has been, I don't know how to say, like in the fitness space, it's never been a consideration. It's never been a thought, right? It's like health and wellness is thought of in the medical sense for people living with disabilities. Now, I think I'm a bit different too. Like I am an adaptive athlete, but I gotta say, outside of fitness, I don't deem myself to have adaptive needs, right? Like I function totally fine in today's world. And, I was just with a couple weeks ago, Casey Acre, who's incredible. Like that dude, that is the freaking Matt Frazier of one-arm athletes. I was just lucky he didn't show up to the 2019 Wheelwad game, so I won. But that dude, he's born that way, right? He's born below elbow amputee. He's just trained his whole life. It's just the way it is. There was no, I need to adapt to this. There wasn't, no, it's just, so he's the furthest thing from identifying as an adaptive athlete, but he recognizes that he's for the first time going to get a platform where he can compete as his own, as an individual to his ability level and shine because of the hard work he's put in for decades, right? And so I think that's like really important to reiterate, is that like, although we do want to cater inclusion, accessibility, and opportunity for the whole world of people with disabilities in this place of CrossFit, we also want to allow for those who are already on the borderline of being elite athletes the opportunity to freaking excel and take off. And for individuals like Casey and Jed to shine and get the spotlight, the recognition, the story told that they deserve.
Yeah. Well, Logan, we always appreciate your time that you take to do this. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, and your energy is infectious. And I think a lot of people who are listening to this are probably, a little fired up right now, as they should be. And that's a good thing. And best of luck moving forward. And I really can't wait to see what the future of this thing is going to be.
Oh, thank you guys so much. Again, like I said, when I was listening to that Eric Rosa podcast and I heard Tommy say that comment about adaptive athletes, I was like, yes, he can't say no. He can't say no now. So I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for all the work you do. And thank you for the opportunity to have me on here and share with your listeners.